Hey folks, welcome to the Nuclear Snail channel. This time I'm going to be talking about making armor. So what can be achieved with the technique I'm going to be talking about can be seen here. This is one of my recent armors, a work in progress still. Just take a look at a couple of pictures. So I'm not going to be talking about armor design in this video, like what kind of shapes your plates have or composition and other design stuff. I'm gonna be just showing you a simple technique which will allow you to make plates that look like this on padding which looks like this. And from that you can come up with your own designs, your own shapes for the armor, and you can basically make all kinds of armor you want in this look. Okay, here is by the way a shot of my shoulder on that armor suit. This is a tactical light for identification on the battlefield. Basically replaces cam lights. Alright, so how do we start? First of all, we need a basic vest. In my armor project right here, I did everything from scratch, but if you just want to get started, just grab some vest and go for it. So, with the vest being in place, I just take some paper and come up with some shapes. This is basically just something I came up with in 1 minute. And again, this video is not about armor design, so we'll just go with this shape. In order to cut this shape to be symmetric, you just fold it in the middle like this, and then you cut it, through the both layers of it at the same time, with the fold being your vertical center line. Then you take EVA foam. I will not go into depth about this. It's basically readily available everywhere, and there is 1,000 cosplayer tutorials about how to use EVA foam. We are going to be using it as padding because it's an excellent shock absorber and it also makes armor more comfortable. So we're going to just cut out a full piece which will cover both sides of our chest armor right here from EVA, and then we're going to use a heat gun. Again, EVA plus heat gun, 1,000 of tutorials online, not going to go into depth on that. I'll just give it a nice curvature to fit my chest. Alright, now we're going to take our template and sketch or trace it on a piece of 2mm aluminum. For those of you into metallurgy, which I'm not, I'm using the ALMG3 compound, which is the most common aluminum readily available everywhere. Now, I'm using 2mm thickness. It's perfect for me because it is thick enough in order to be able to do this without rolling an edge. It feels thick enough. It looks thick enough, especially if you give the edge a bevel, to which I will get later. And 2mm is still workable. You can still bend it. I will get to that also in a second. 3mm would be too thick, at least for my taste. You need to be really strong with your hammer and everything else, and it's also harder to cut, so 3mm is overkill. 1mm feels to me like a tin can. I don't like it, so 2mm is perfect in my opinion. Now, where do you get a 2mm aluminum sheet? At least in Germany, the only way to get it is to order it online. Thankfully, there are various websites offering it, so yeah, Google is your friend. To cut it, many people like using their Dremel tool or even a big cut-off wheel. You can do that, and it works. I, however, have never tried it myself. I've just seen it multiple times in videos by ZNA Productions, which is an awesome channel, by the way. ZNA, if you don't know it. Alright, and what I'm using, however, is a scroll saw. This is a rather powerful, but not over-the-top powerful and expensive Proxxon DSH 460, I think. That's the name of that scroll saw. Basically, if you get a scroll saw for kind of works like this, then it needs to be powerful enough, and of course this scroll saw blade needs to be able to cut non-ferrous metal. Okay, again, 1,000 of tutorials online about using a scroll saw or buying a scroll saw. So what a scroll saw allows to do is cutting it rather precisely, okay? But what I have done here on purpose is make some mistakes. Usually, if you use your scroll saw properly, there will not be an edge like this. Okay, I've did this on purpose to show you how to fix mistakes like this without having to recut. So here are 2 plates, and what I'm taking now to fix all of this and to progress with my build in general, adhesive tape, double-sided adhesive tape. As you can see here, I've already made 1 hole here with my drill into this corner of that plate, and then I'm using that hole to also make a hole into the piece underneath it. Those two pieces are as perfectly aligned as I can align them, and I make holes into each corner of my two plates. The advantage of having it connected like this is that your holes are going to be symmetric. And to be precise with my holes, I use a punch. If you don't know what a punch is, just type in metalwork using a punch. It's cheap and it's very effective at making your holes more precise. So now we have connected our two pieces together with some screws, and we take it to a belt sander. So here is my belt sander lying on its back, ready to sand. Usually I would need to clamp this belt sander into a vise for it to be more secure, or secure it otherwise because it travels a bit, but I don't care right now, I'm a crazy Russian. But if you do something like this, you know, just be safe, don't let it chew off your fingers. A very good advice for working with a belt sander or any tools really that use rotation, especially rotary tools, do not wear gloves. Your glove is gonna get sucked up in the machinery and so will your fingers. Do not wear gloves when working with a belt sander. For inner curves, you can use this part of the belt sander where it also goes around a curve. And for everything else, you use the flat part. Okay, this much for sanding, and since we sanded those two pieces while they are connected, they are pretty much very similar, if not identical. And as you can see here, yeah, those pieces are almost perfectly symmetric. I don't want to go overboard with making it perfectly symmetric. You can see some mistakes here, but who cares? It's post-apocalyptic in the first place. So, and what I'm doing now is using my miniature belt sander, which is a Proxxon BSE belt sander, if you can call it that, to give this a nice beveled edge. That's what I was talking about. First, it removes the burrs and the sharp edge. And second, it gives the whole plate more thickness feeling to it, because that bevel reflects light nicely, and that is awesome. Alright, what I don't like now about those plates is that they are still too shiny and new. I want them to look kind of brushed. So I'm using a really rough piece of sandpaper here, and I just rough it up. I go in all random directions, and then at the end I go in one direction to make it look kind of brushed. It will leave a lot of aluminum dust, don't breathe it, and if you don't like it on your fingers, maybe wear gloves, but I just washed it off afterwards. Okay, what we have here is a imperfect solid block of steel, which I got from somewhere. And I'm gonna be using that and my hammers. This is a top view, so here is my chest, here is my lap, and I'm holding it on my lap. You can of course leave it on your table, but since I live in a flat, the vibrations would go boom on my neighbor's head every time I pound it, so I'm keeping it on my lap. Since I'm not doing a lot of this stuff, it's also fine for my lap health and stuff, I'm not concerned. So what I'm gonna be using first is this hammer right here, which has this slim linear wedge thing. And what I'm going to be doing is marking a line. Here you can see this line. And yeah, I did that just afterwards to show you. I didn't do it in the first run. I'm basically just laying this piece flat on my steel block and hammering along a line. Doesn't have to be perfect, but it helps to have it marked. And as you can see here, it starts bending upwards. So it looks like this. You see there is a slight angle in it, which is exactly what I want. Angle like this. And on the other side, you can see something that is great for a post-apocalyptic build, not so great for any other sort of build. Since this steel block is imperfect, rough on the surface, and aluminum is soft, all the detail is getting pounded into that aluminum, making this edge look very used. Here is a close-up of that, so I think that is awesome. Now I'm comparing those two side plates, because I did it to both of them, if they have around the same angle. Here is a close-up of my block. It has STF and unfortunately not a U after the F, otherwise it would be STFU, which is shut the fuck up. I would like to have STFU pounded into my codpiece, but for that I have a cool 8 and a cool 0 and a cool 2 right here. And what we're gonna do next is use this ball-peen hammer, this side of it, the round side of it, to pound this aluminum in there to have this 80 or 08 number imprinted there. So here are the hammer marks, and you should not move this plate a lot. This time I was moving this plate a lot, that's why it has turned out not so great. You see, here is a 0, there is a 0, it's all mess. It actually worked out better the first time I tried it. Here it is. So there I was not moving around my plate quite so much, so it turned out more nicely. So to correct my mistake, I take the flat side of that ball-peen hammer and straighten out this entire area, and then I repeat the process until it looks like this, which I'm satisfied with. And this is what it looks like now. And as you see here, it's also bent in that general area. It's not just that imprint, the entire area is bent. You can leave it like this if you like that effect. If no, then just use a hammer. Here I'm using this large rubber mallet to straighten it out. And I'm straightening it out over the edge of my steel block so that my bend, which we have made before, doesn't get removed. And what I'm doing here is putting this piece of aluminum onto my imperfect steel block, and I'm pounding on it just randomly. With this side, with that side, you see the hammer marks here. And when we flip the plates, it will look like this. So the hammer has been pounding from the other side of this area, for example. And all of those imperfections of that steel block, they get imprinted into those aluminum plates, making it look really, really used. Like it has been corroded or something like this. I really like this effect. By the way, before we get to the next part, what I'm doing here with bending those aluminum plates, it's really rudimentary. I want to keep my design process really simple, and I like this rough industrial look. If you're looking for more advanced techniques like rolling the edge, more complex shapes, compound shapes in your armor forming in general, I strongly recommend the channel of David Guyton, written like Guy and then T-O-N, David Guyton. You will find a lot of awesome stuff here. I learned some techniques from his channel. David, if you're watching this, thanks so much, dude. It's awesome. One of my favorite channels, really. Alright, so now we have our effect right here, and we're gonna paint this whole thing now. I'm using some sort of spray paint, doesn't matter what you use. This one is greenish, like dark green, and I spray it onto the plates and I wipe it off quickly. I basically wipe a part of it, and part of it gets distributed across the surface, and it stays in those crevices, emphasizing that effect and that 80 or 08 number. And what I'm doing here is using that clear spray paint and that permanent adhesive spray. I spray it over the plate, and then I basically dip it into sand, or throw that sand and clay dust all over those plates. It's literally the same effect as shown in my permanent effects for post-apocalyptic costume grunge video, which was my first, by the way. You can apply this to anything, basically paint and dust, and more paint and more dust, and then you remove some of it, and then you reapply some of it, and then you just abuse your piece as much as you can. You can see me here just dragging it around with my foot over my balcony. Socks and sandals for the wind, by the way. Here I have probably reapplied that clear spray paint again, and I'm dipping it into that sand, grinding it against those small rocks. Basically, you repeat that process of grunging and degrunging a couple of times, and then that's exactly what it will look like. But our effect here is not finished yet. We will get back to this later, because I want some of the grunge effect to also be applied to the padding. Here is, by the way, this spray adhesive thing. I call it spider jizz because when you spray it over something, it distributes like this. It looks like Spider-Man got really excited about this thing. Okay, and you can apply some rougher effect of stuff sticking to your plate by spraying some adhesive like that, and then throwing sand onto it. I just wanted to show you this effect here. I didn't want to keep it, so I brushed it off again. So you could proceed as it is, using those EVA foam plates as your basis. This is what it looks like from the side. But that's not what I want in this case. I want it to look something like this. I want it to look like those metal plates are mounted on some Kevlar plates or some other mystery material enclosed in canvas. It makes it look more military-ish, in my opinion. So what I'm gonna be using for that is a t-shirt to wrap this EVA foam in to create a nice padding. Now you can use thicker materials. What I've used here was some sort of a cordura, thick cordura stuff, but the thicker your material is, which you use as wrapping, the harder time you will have wrapping it. So with a t-shirt like this, it's very simple and sufficient in most cases. And yeah, cutting out that piece of t-shirt gave me a bitching shirt like this. So here we have our piece, and we're gonna wrap it around this piece of EVA. For that, I have flipped it, as you see, and this is double-sided adhesive tape, and then I apply some into high detail areas, such as this V cut right here. Then you just wrap it around while keeping tension. That's important. Keep tension on your shirt fabric. With a short fabric, it's jersey fabric, it's really easy. It's kind of stretchy, that's why. So once you have it looking like this, just trim away the excess and apply some more double-sided adhesive tape for some order on that surface. So this side is where the metal plate is gonna come on top of this. Because the other side is fully covered in canvas now, that's gonna be facing your body, so your armor is also nice from the inside. I'm using my awl here to basically punch some holes into this padding here, which will fit the holes of my plate, which I have drilled before. Now this is a washer right here, you need this, and this is a screw. I'm connecting this padding directly to this armor because I do not want to mount it onto something yet. If you're mounting it onto your vest, then you of course first punch a hole into your vest where it should be, and then you use a washer, and basically you jam your vest in between the padding and the washer. So one screw is holding your vest, your padding, and your armor piece together. You can also add some washers on this side as well, but since it's aluminum, it's not really needed here. You might want to add some for aesthetics, that's up to you. Okay, so, but as I said, I'm not actually mounting this onto my vest, so I'm just connecting those pieces. Basically looks like a porcupine. And you can't leave it like this, of course. Yeah, here it is on my vest, just, you know, trying out if it fits shape-wise. And here to try it on, I did not connect it with the screws, I just used some double-sided adhesive tape, also called drafting tape, to check out my draft, if it fits. Okay, you've seen this. So after you're done, you should trim your screws. You see this technique in my screw sewing video, so watch that one. I'll just say this here once. They should be flush, and you should use Loctite or any other compound to lock them in place. And now that our pieces are connected, our padding and our metal plates, I'm going to use some machine oil to make it look actually oily on the canvas. And I'm also going to be using some sandish looking paint and some black paint for the canvas and everything else. I don't know what kind of paints those are. I also don't care. People overthink this post-apocalyptic paints thing. Just take something. Okay, and this sand-looking paint I have used, you can see there is some sandy tone going on right here. That's what it did. I just used a bit of it and distributed it evenly across the surface, or not so evenly actually, and you can also see it here. So it looks like you have crawled through some mud, which I think is cool. Alright, and you see me using my Dremel here, so I'm gonna make a bullet effect, like the armor has deflected a bullet, but got bent in the process. So I'm cutting in with my Dremel tool a couple of times, even more times, until it looks something like this. And note that I'm not bending anything or something, it's just that 2mm aluminum thickness allows me to do this. It's just basically cutaway material. Don't go too thin, otherwise you'll just get a full hole. Which might be exactly what you want, by the way. And after I've Dremeled, I'm using again my miniature belt sander thing just to smooth it all out until it looks something like this. Now there is another cool effect you can apply, which is this. You see this X right here? Looks like some sort of weird ass arrow has hit there or something. You can basically take any hard metal object which is harder than aluminum and use your hammer and your steel block or whatever it is you're hammering on to pound those shapes into metal. It did not work out here, as I found out, because it's already on padding, and this EVA foam is great at absorbing shock. So unless you're very strong, don't do this. If you want any surface effects which require hammering, do this before you mount your plate onto your EVA or other padding. Here you can see I've added some minor blood effect. It's just again some fabric paint which I've mixed to look this bloody color, and I drip a bit of it. An advice, unless you're making your armor really bloody, unless you're looking to make it really bloody, take just a bit of blood, that's sufficient. Here are some more shots of it. And you can see here how nicely it reflects the light, because it's real metal. Nothing is more metal than metal. Here's how it looks on the vest. And yeah, as I said, it's not about armor design in this video. It's about just showing you this technique. You can make armors that look like this with it, or come up with your own design. I will give you one advice though about armor design. For my part, I found it much easier to work with armor designs that are segmented. For example, especially this side plate right here. Fitting it around the body as one piece would be way harder than just making it out of two pieces. So that's my way of doing things, also because I like this segmented look. But again, David Guyton, check out his channel. He has some techniques of making a full armor fit you perfectly, stuff like this. Alright. Anyway, guys, I hope you like this video. I hope you can come up with some really interesting armor designs of your own using this technique. If so, then post them to my Facebook page. I will probably see them and comment on them. If you like this video and would like to see more videos like this, then please support me on my Patreon page. The Patreon page is linked in the video description, is the first link. Thanks to my Patreon supporters, I'm capable of producing more of these tutorial videos. Also, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friend, and I will see you next time. Oh, and before I forget, greetings to Elliot, the master and the inventor of shaky cam, which you can see in so many films nowadays. Alright, see you guys.